Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a super fun and super weird video for you guys today because we're going to be playing some Game Boy games, but we're not going to be playing them on a Game Boy handheld. We're not going to be playing them on MiSTer FPGA. We're going to be playing them on the Playdate. And honestly, I did one Playdate video maybe a year and a half ago, had a lot of fun with it, and I always meant to come back to this platform to showcase some more of the fun games, and literally never did a second video, so you're getting one today. And honestly, what they're doing here with Game Boy emulation, it is absolutely wild and fun to see, and actually has a lot of fun features that will be exclusive to Playdate. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And while we have like 101 different ways to play original Game Boy games, there's something very charming about seeing them displayed on the Playdate screen, because just like the Game Boy, it is a non-backlit monochromatic display. You're getting black, you're getting white, and you're getting shades in between. The nice thing is with Mirror, I can capture footage off this for the video, so it makes life very easy trying to actually make these videos. And the nice thing is, at least in some of the games, the crank is going to be supported, and I think you're going to see more modders going in and actually making games or modifying them to allow for the use of the Playdate crank, the most obvious and unique feature of that entire console. Right now it's used for save and select, but I know some people are actually working on some Game Boy ROM hacks and new games that are going to utilize this actual crank, and that'll be a lot of fun. And honestly, Crankboy has a ton of fun features, including an entire database of cover art for the emulator. Now, the files do need to have a name that it'll understand, but if you see that it's missing the cover and says press B to download, within like 5 or 10 seconds you're going to see the cover art for whatever Game Boy game you're talking about show up on the screen, and that really is nice. Looks great on the monochromatic display as well. And this is all done by Crankboy HQ, and I'm going to explain to you how to install this if you want. Just kind of go over it, because again, I absolutely love the Playdate and just how weird and funky it is. It's basically like the anti-console. Yes, it exists, but it does things completely different than any other platform, and this thing is legit fully featured, including save states, the ability for soft patching of different ROM files, and even the crank IO registers, and that is insane. And honestly, this soft patching is really nice. Instead of making a bunch of copies of the ROM like they talk about, you can apply a single ROM and then just have the patches in a folder and applied at runtime. And honestly, seeing what people are going to do with the Game Boy platform and the Playdate crank in conjunction with themselves really is the most exciting thing, because I can imagine a lot of fun ways that you can actually utilize that crank. But you'll see here, at least by default, if you crank up towards the screen, you're going to have the start button. If you crank down towards the controls, you're going to have the select button. But imagine how many fun things could be done in the future, and leave me a comment down below and tell me what you'd love to see on the crank and Game Boy games. And the nice thing is, at least on the Playdate side, installing and sideloading applications is so incredibly easy. I recommend the website load, and I'm going to show you how to do that, because not only is it good for Crankboy, but it's also good for basically every fan game out there that isn't part of the Playdate seasons. All you need to do is download version 1.0.2, the most recent as of the recording of this video, and you can just go ahead and log into your Playdate application on the web browser and go to sideload, and you can just upload that exact zip file. You don't even need to unzip it. You just go ahead, do that, and then it'll go ahead and sideload it onto your account, and then from there it'll either automatically install on your Playdate, or we can do the manual installation, because honestly the auto install takes a lot longer than I would like. If you go into settings in games, you go ahead and crank down until you get to the side loaded menu. You'll see here I have a copy of Celeste and Crankboy already installed. If it takes a little minute to show up, you'll see that refreshing list at the top left hand corner. Let that run until it is done, and then from there I've already installed it, but you'll have a button under Crankboy to install. It takes about like 10 seconds at the most, and then you have the emulator installed on your system, and all you need to do is launch it once for the folder structure to be there so we can bring the games over, which we'll get into in just a moment. But again, this screen on the Playdate is such a perfect match for the screen on the Game Boy. Sure, the overall aspect ratio isn't exact, but what you're getting here on the screen real estate looks exactly correct to my eyes. And again, if we actually go into Mirror and show you guys the footage here, it just is so much fun. Now, I don't usually play through Mirror. It can be a slight lag between what you're actually seeing on the Playdate and on the screen, but for actually capturing these videos, it is a godsend, because otherwise it would be all off-camera footage, and that never looks as good. And right now we're playing Trip World, but I'm going to do the first soundtrack sample so you can get a sense of what the overall crank emulation application is going to do sound-wise, and I'll get into how to get the games on and just kind of go over all the diverse settings in the emulator, because they are comprehensive, especially for a platform like Playdate. But enjoy the music. I mean, it sounds accurate to my ear. Unfortunately, with the mirror application, sometimes you do have a little lag in both the video and the audio, and there's nothing I've been able to do to actually remedy that. Just one of those things. I have plenty of system resources, but mirror really is used for screenshots and capturing small clips. It's the one maybe fatal flaw of Playdate is actually doing videos on it can be a little slightly annoying with mirror, but it is just one of those things. It doesn't seem to want to run real time, but when you actually set the Playdate into target disk mode to copy files over, it does seem to be a very slow connection, even though it is USB-C, so it's almost like it's a USB 2.0 or maybe even 3.0 connection, but it always feels slightly slow. But the nice thing is it works when you're playing in your palm of your hand. I don't really hear that audio lag whatsoever. But now we have to go over how to get the games onto this thing, because honestly, if you have a Playdate, you have to be playing this. It is just so much fun and basically expands the library of the handheld by hundreds upon hundreds of games. So if you set the Playdate into target data mode, and that is on the GitHub directions, and you've launched the actual emulator once, you're going to see here, this is the general folder structure, and we have to go to data user, into the Crankboy folder, and into games. That's where all of the ROMs are going to live, and I have left a link to the GitHub page down below. If you need the directions, they are there. So if we go into data, you're going to see user and then app crankboyhq.crankboy. That is where all the games are going to go. You can ignore any other folders you see in there, and then obviously from there we're going to be putting the games in the games folder. That makes perfect sense. So go ahead and double click into that and drag and drop or copy and paste whatever games you want to have come over. They just need to either be in the .gb or .gbc for Game Boy Color format, because yes, this will emulate Game Boy Color games. Of course, it's not going to do it in color because it is the Playdate. And now we have all the games that I wanted to bring over and test for the video and just in the background ready to go. If we go back one, you have covers as well as patches. If you want to put any patches in there, that's where they go. If you need to manually add any covers that the actual emulator can't find in its database, that's where you're going to go put those as well. And then from there, once you actually launch the Playdate and then you go ahead and launch the emulator, you're going to have all of those files in your library. But let's go through all of the different diverse settings that this actually offers. If we hit the home button and go to settings, you're going to see that if a game supports saving in its own ROM, you don't have the save state option. That's just kind of how it works. Then you have all of these different audio and display settings. You can also improve, change around the dithering to whatever mode you want it to be. For the most part, I left all of these settings exactly as is because they seem to work for me, but it is fun to play around with the dithering and the line scaling. That way you can kind of get the look you want, because again, this is a higher resolution than the Game Boy Color screen or even the Game Boy screen, but of course it is still black and white, and you have different behaviors for the crank, the boot sequence, and everything else. You can even overclock this. Just be aware that sometimes it kind of breaks the games, and you can uncap the frame rate and even have some acceleration on. Play around with these at your leisure, but honestly the default settings seem to work for me. I'm going to do one more soundtrack sample because I did change the sound settings to see if I could get slightly less lag in the actual Playdate mirror mode. So go ahead and listen for 35 seconds and I'll be right back with more. I did a better job there, and the audio was synced up until the mirror application lag. That is not anything you're going to be dealing with when you're actually playing these games on the Playdate when you're just sitting around. And hopefully sometime soon, Playdate actually updates some of that mirror software so we can actually get a slightly better performance. I've tried on two different systems, my laptop that I use for editing as well as my editing rig, and I have the same issue across the board from one to the other. But again, just being able to download the covers, being able to play Game Boy games on something like the Playdate is an absolute ton of fun. It's one of those things that almost feels like a party trick, but when you realize just how good that screen is for Game Boy games, you realize there is a lot of fun to be had here, and a very big reason to actually want to install this. And again, once more modders and more ROM hackers get involved and start playing around with the crank and what it can actually do in some of these games, that's where a lot of the fun I think is going to come from this. Just seeing a completely new way to control games and new games that utilize that. And this will run Game Boy Color games as well, but of course those were in color, so it's one of those things, if it was designed only for color, it's going to look a little weird on the screen. That really isn't the intent of this emulator. It is for original Game Boy games, but it is a fun little bonus thing that you can play around with in your spare time. but honestly, this emulator playing Game Boy games on Playdate is just straight up awesome, and it is a perfect use of the Playdate handheld. And if for any reason you want to see more Playdate videos, leave me a comment down below, because I was thinking about making a few, but it's one of those things I have absolutely no idea in my audience who actually owns one of these things. But if you're thinking about picking one up, take it from me. It absolutely is worth its weight in gold, because it is so different and so unique compared to everything else we have right now. It kind of feels like those magic moments in the early 90s where gaming was just whatever it wanted to be. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.